SOTC 50. 52, 50. Sounds like an energy drink. Hey, here's the deal, man. This chapter is called Bear Down. Well, what does that mean? Well, a lot of you already know what it means. Some of you don't. Bear down means you press down hard. You need to press down hard. You've gone so far, and now you've given it a great effort, and now all of a sudden it's gotten a little bit harder. And you need to bear all the way down to get it through. Jesus is going to come up with some times in your life, man, where you're going to have to bear down. I'm sorry if you've been listening to some flowery TV program that keeps telling you all you got to do is quote this verse and send them $20 a month for 20 years and they'll give you 20 million or whatever kind of scenario they're trying to sucker you in on. But the fact of the matter is, there's times in your life when you're going to have to bear down. I use in this chapter, I use the example of Jairus in Mark 5. Jairus was a leader and his daughter was sick, and he went to Jesus and asked Jesus if he would come and heal his daughter. Well, if you read that story, Jesus said, sure, I'll come heal your daughter. So as they were going along, this woman with the issue of blood shows up, and he got delayed, and he got delayed, and he got delayed. And all of a sudden, what seemed like it was going to be an easy thing, Jairus went to Jesus, he did the right thing, he said, my daughter needs healing. He said, okay, I'll heal her. So everything's going Jake, he's just moving down the line, but then all of a sudden things got hard. A woman shows up and touches his hem, and she's got an issue of blood, and people are talking, he says, who touched me? And they can't figure that out because the whole crowd around, they don't know what he's talking about. And all these delays come in, man. And now here's what I'm talking about, bear down. Jairus had faith to go to Jesus and ask him. Jesus said yes. So it seems like that should have been done. But what happened? A delay comes in, and now all of a sudden they show up and they tell Jairus that his daughter's dead. And you know what he's got to be thinking to himself. If it wasn't for that freaking woman with the issue of blood that would have delayed Jesus and all this stuff that was going on, and him asking who touched me and where'd my power go and all this other stuff, if he would have just kept walking and got to where my daughter was, man, this wouldn't have happened. So Jesus says, just keep believing. In other words, what Jesus was saying in 21st century Ben Hardister vernacular was, Jesus was saying, hey man, bear down. It's time to get with it. It's getting hard. Stay with me. Don't take off, right? You need to bear down a little bit. So that's why this chapter is called Bear Down. Because there's sometimes things are going to happen to you and it just doesn't seem like it's according to God's plan. But yet, you have to bear down and get in a little bit tighter, push a little bit harder, and stick with Jesus just a little bit longer in order for things to come around back to where he wants them to be. The devil sometimes will send a blockade your way to hold you up. And sometimes it'll just be God allowing some of these things to happen to increase your faith. But there'll come times in your life, if you're serving the Lord, where you're going to have to just bear down and get through what he's given you to do. There's a lot of different examples I could probably think of to take up a lot of time, but you know what I've been through doesn't really matter. It matters what you're going through, and to understand that what you're going through is by design. So there comes times in your life when you have to bear down, and we all go through it. I remember one time I was in Venezuela, outside of Caracas, and I was supposed to go there to buy an induction house. This friend of mine, David Wagner, and I started a program called Impacto de Dios, and it was to take people who were on drugs and get them off drugs and bring them in the kingdom of God. It started with just 70 guys on the river, and we ended up with 4, 5, 6, 7,000. We started with one facility, then another facility, and another one, and about every 3 or 4 months he's saying, hey man, we need more money, we need more stuff. Well, I was working in developing real estate, and just about the time I'd cash a check for one deal would be spent, and I'd just start to get a little bit ahead, and I'd have to spend it again. So I didn't really worry about it because experience tells me whatever God has me putting out there, it always comes back in like a tidal wave. You know, they say when there's a tsunami, if you look at the beach, it sucks the water away, way out, and there's nothing but mud and dead fish flipping around. And then all of a sudden, when it comes back in, it's like a 50-foot wave, right? And given to the Lord's like that. you give and you give and you give, and he says, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, I want you to do this, and pretty soon you're depleted, and you look over, man, not only is there no beach, but there's no water, it's just mud and dead fish. And that's the time you've got to bear down and know that if you just keep going and doing what he tells you to do, that it's coming, it's on the way. But now instead of just saying, yeah, okay, I'll do that, now you got to say, man, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll give it my best shot. And you got to bear down and stay with it, right? And then when that tsunami comes, it just washes you away. It's happened to me 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I know it's true because I've experienced, not because I read it in a book. I know it's true because I've seen it, not because somebody told me on TV. It's true. There comes a time when you have to bear down to get that promise and stay with it, right? So this one particular instance, he says, we gotta get this induction house, and it's 50 grand. And I remember I didn't have much more than that in the bank, but when I got over there, it turns out it was a house of prostitution, and the only time I could talk to the guy was at midnight. Well, I usually go to bed at 8 or 9 minutes at midnight, so I had me a Red Bull or two, and away we went, right? So we park out in front in this horrible neighborhood, a town called La Vega in Venezuela, and we pull up, and it's my missionary buddy and this other missionary and me, and I said, well, let's go talk to this cat. And they said, oh, no, we can't go in there. I said, well, why not? They said, well, it's a house of prostitution. We're ministers. I said, yeah, well, what's that make me? And they said, well, you're just a dirtbag. You don't matter. And I thought, you know what, that's probably true. Fair enough. You guys stay out here in the car and pray, then I'll go handle this cat. I walked in there, what was supposed to be $50,000, because that's all I could put together. The guy wants 65. And I negotiated with hookers walking around and John's walking around, people screaming and moaning and yelling for 3.5 hours trying to get it down to 50. He started at 300. I mean, that's how they do business over there. I finally got the guy down to 65 and he wouldn't budge. Just like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm telling you, man, at about 2 in the morning with all this stuff going on around me, I had to bear down. But I did. We got it. We filled it full of guys who were on drugs and delivered them from heroin addiction, from cocaine and meth and everything else. And God was glorified. But in order for it to come to pass, it just didn't like fall like a daisy off the back of the station wagon. I had to bear down. And sometimes you're going to have to bear down too. God will put you in a position where everything goes real nice to a point, and then you got to bear down. I hope you get this, man. Maybe it'll help you. I hope it does. Thanks.